Manx Radio Sport.
Very good evening and welcome once again to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. I'm Rob Pritchard, taking you through until 6:30pm, and I hope you've had a wonderful week so far. Coming up tonight. In football, teams will be hoping to close the gap on men's Premier League leaders St John's this weekend, whilst the latest games also take place across Division 2 and the Combination Leagues. FC Isle of Man will be hoping to put their recent run of poor form in the league behind them as they turn their focus to cup competition when they host Lower Breck in the FA Vase. In rugby, the Manx sides competing in the English leagues are in the spotlight, with domestic competitions taking a break this time around. And in hockey, the early battle for supremacy continues for the third week of the mixed season. That's all to come this evening. So on what's turning out to be a very pleasant Friday evening here, we start with football tonight. Let's get right to it, and as ever we're joined by Tony Mepham, who's across the desk from me. Tony, good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Rob.
Okay, let's jump straight into it. There was no Friday football this week, Friday night football. I can't use the phrase properly, can I, this time?
I know what it is at the start of the season, before the fixtures are released, we just check with the clubs. They have a rough idea what's coming up, and any clubs who would like to play on the Friday, we let them do that. And it goes well, and if there's a good game, you know, like a first team game, or even the Combi have been playing well for St John's, it gets a good crowd as well while the weather's good. But once it gets chilly, I think people prefer to stay in and not strong enough to brave the cold.
Well, in the absence of Friday night football, let's take a look straight onto Saturday, where the bunch of fixtures are all kicking off at 2:30pm, with a couple of exceptions, which we'll come to. Well, we'll start off, and there are 6 games in the Canada Life Men's Premier League this weekend.
Yeah, it is, and we're looking at the Premier League and Div 2s now, because they've played, 2-3 games, so everyone's starting to get comfortable in it now. We know where it's sort of shaping up to go, but let's have a look at the top one of the sheet, and that's Rushden against Douglas Royal. Douglas Royal are surprised with their defeat last week against St John's, but St John's on top of the league for being a Duff team, so it just shows you that they've got strength in there. As where Rushden, I know they've got players representing FC Isle of Man, but they had that last year, but last year they seemed to be able to cover it a little bit better. This year they had a bit of a blip at the start, but I think Rushden will start off as slight favourites. Peel against Union Mills. Union Mills, I watched them pre-season, look good. Peel, I think Rhys Oates might be back from holiday, so if he is, that makes them a little bit stronger, but you have to go for Peel to win that. St George's against Ayr. St George's had a real patched up unit 7 days ago. Against Ayr, they're looking a little bit stronger. They've got 1 or 2 players back in, but Ayr, Nick Hurt, the manager, playing at the back, I think, by the look of it, and with him there, George Rawlinson, we've got Jamie Callister as well. Defensively, they should be strong enough, but they've got to score the goals, so it'll be up to people like Jason Crane and also his son as well. So I'm going to go for St George's just to win that. Laxey against Ramsey. Watched Laxey last week, put in a good shift at the start against Corinthians, but collapsed in the end and lost 6-1. As well with Ramsey going from strength to strength. A great 5-0 win against Geordie shows you where they are. Old Boys against Corinthians. There's still a little bit of a question mark on this one, Rob, because we've lost a referee due to illness, and we're struggling to find someone else to do it. So if there's someone out there who's allowed to do it, who's a registered referee and just not doing it this year, we'd like to hear from you. We'll get you in there and get you on that game. And Moran against Onken. 1 or 2 other players not so well for the Onken. A little bit of illness kicking around for them, and I think Moran will just pip that one. But 6 interesting games.
And that last one there, Moran versus Onken, that's a 1pm kickoff as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Onken Stadium still being used for summer activities, so a double header. The first team will kick off at 1, and the combination is down for 3:30.
Very well, let's move on. We've got 5 games down for the DPS Limited Division 2.
Yeah, Michael against Jims should be a close battle. Michael United got a lot stronger squad this year, so it's looking good. Jims as well, 1 or 2 players missing, so it'll even it up. So I'm going to go for this one for a draw. St Mary's against Ramsey Youth Centre. This one kicks off at 1:45, kick-off at the Bowl. I'm going to go for St Mary's to take the points there. Castletown against Governors Athletic. Don't know what happened in the last game for Castletown when they lost, but my word, they got a bit of a beating there by Braddon. So whether there's players missing, I'm not too sure. But against Governors, they should have enough to take maximum points in that. Foxdale against Braddon. Taken note of that result last week where they scored all those goals as well. So it could be a close game, but I think experience might just swing it towards Foxdale. And Douglas Athletic against D&D. Douglas Athletic with just 1 team. I'm going to go for D&D to take the points in that.
Okay, let's take a quick look then at the combination leagues, and we've got 5 games as well in Canada Life Combi 1.
Yeah, Russian being tipped as one of the favourites in this for this season, and I'm going to go for Russian to defeat Douglas Royal, even though it is at Ballafletcher. Union Mills against Peel. Peel are strong. I think Union Mills will find it difficult, so Peel to win. Ramsey against Laxey. Laxey, just at the start of the season, Rob, a few players missing. Players gone back to university, but they've got some real quality about to turn 16, which will allow them to play then in senior football. So I think they've just got to wait and be patient. We'll go for Ramsey to win. Corinthians against Douglas High School Old Boys. Could go anywhere, this one. Old Boys had a free week the first game of the season, but I'll stick my neck out for the home side, Corinthians to win. And Onken against Moran. This is at Moran, 3:30 kickoff. I'm going to go for Onken just to take the points in that.
And then rounding off things on Saturday, 5 games in DPS Limited Combi 2.
Yeah, and the first one we're looking at Jims against Michael. I'm going to go for Michael to win. Douglas and District against Paul Rose. Douglas and District to win that one. Ramsey Youth Centre against St Mary's. I'll go for the away side to take the victory. Maloo against Colby. Now, Maloo have played 2, won 2. And against a Colby side who, again, have got 1 or 2 new players who have come in looking quite good. The scoring goals, but Maloo, when you look at the goals that they've scored of late, 6 against St Mary's last week, 7 in their first game of the season, 13-2. You'd have to say that Maloo will win that. And then Braddon against Foxdale. Braddon again have got good young players in their filter through, but Foxdale have got more experience. I just think Foxdale will just edge that victory.
Well, that's all your games for Saturday. Let's move into Sunday, and we have 2 games down in the Canada Life Women's League, and they are kicking off at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, Castletown against Peel. Castletown haven't started their season yet. Peel, emphatic victory last week against Douglas Royal, wasn't it? I think it was 10 or 11 nil, so well done to them, and I'm going to go for Peel to win. Onken against Douglas Royal. It should be a win for Douglas Royal, but I know they've lost a couple of players. A couple of players have gone away as well. Onken, I know they lost against Maloo, but still got some good young players in there, but I think Royal will just have the experience to take the victory.
And then last and certainly not least, we have 2 games in the Masters football on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, great to see Ayr back in, Rob, because they've won this league before and had a bit of a spell out, but they're back in there now. 1 or 2 players have turned 35, but just be careful, guys, because don't forget, if you've played Premier League, which is obviously first team, you can't play in the Masters the following day or the following game if you haven't had another fixture in that. But I think Ayr will be too strong in this one. I think they've got some really good players. Haven't seen their team yet, so we'll wait and see how that one goes. Onken against Douglas Royal will be a great battle. This one kicks off 3:40 kick-off at the Bowl. Again, it's both sides' first game, so I don't know how strong their squads are, but I know Tristan Ringen won't be able to play for Onken because he's suspended, which he's a good player. So at the moment, don't know where that'll go, but let's just go to the cup winners from last season to take victory in that, and that'll be Douglas Royal.
Well, those are your Manx football fixtures for Saturday and Sunday. Moving on, FC Isle of Man. They'll be hoping to put their recent tough run in the league behind them this weekend when they face Lower Breck in the FA Vase this Saturday. The Manx side will face their fellow NWCFL Premier Division opponents in the second qualifying round of the competition at the Bowl at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Both sides met in the league on the opening day of the season back on the 30th of July, and it was Lower Breck who came out on top on that occasion with a hard-fought 1-0 win over the Island outfit despite playing much of the game with 9 men. Well, FC Isle of Man have endured a difficult recent run in the league, having failed to win in their last 6 outings, and they've lost 5 of those last 6. Well, in contrast, Lower Breck have enjoyed a strong run of results recently. They've won 4 of their last 5 fixtures. Whoever emerges winners in tomorrow night's game, they'll then move on to the first round proper of the FA Vase, which is scheduled to take place on Saturday, the 22nd of October. FC Isle of Man versus Lower Breck takes place at the Bowl this Saturday, kicking off at 6 p.m. And as ever, we at Manx Radio have got you covered. Myself and Mr. Mepham across from me will be providing full live match commentary of tomorrow night's game from 6 p.m. on our AM 1368 and digital platforms. We'd love to have you along. Well, Tony, we've got around 90 seconds to 2 minutes here just to take a look at it. We've already discussed it on a couple of occasions. It's been a very difficult run of games for FC Isle of Man for a number of reasons. The fact that a cup competition's come around, which route do they go down, FC Isle of Man here? Do they really try and go all out, just focusing solely on the... I'm pretty sure they'd be happy with a win either way, but do they also try and use this as a bit of a platform to maybe work on a couple of things for when they do return to the league to try and get themselves up that table?
A little bit different to last year, Rob, isn't it? Because they brought the younger players in the cup competitions just to see how they went on, and the young players came in and did so well, and they won the cup in the end. But I think it's a little bit different at the moment. They need confidence, and with so many sort of players, Alex Maitland now is missing. He's out for a while. He got injured last week. And I don't know what Chris and Lee can do, because, it was a weird game that when we watched it, because, the Isle of Man, I think, scored. They lost, and then it went down to 9 players. And rightly so. They were 2 sending off offences, but the Isle of Man lost the game, and it was just hard to understand how it happened, 11 against 9. And I just feel now that something needs to change. It was quite interesting. I listened to Kieran McNulty's interview all about need a bit of luck. You and I covered most of the games last year, and they had a bit of luck, but they didn't get promoted and win the cup because of luck. It was just when they needed something special, they got it. And at the moment, they're not getting that. And I think it's really frustrating, not only for the management team, but also for the players.
It's a case of being patient, I think, in some cases, just to maybe find that rhythm. It doesn't always happen overnight, does it?
No, it doesn't. And quite interesting when you look at sort of 60 goals they're missing out on. Sean Doyle was 39, and then you've got Dan Simpson with 21, and other players as well. Now Alex Maitland's missing at the back. So
Lee Gale and Jack Kamada unavailable as well, 2 big players.
Well, that's it.
It's
weekend. Just a real kick. So you've got Steve Whitley that can play on that right-hand side. But Jack Kamada, even though he's a young lad, has done ever so well in that centre midfield. And I just wonder what he'll do at the back. Will it be Sean or Jack McVeigh? I don't know. But it's a task, and let's just hope there's a big crowd down there.
Absolutely. Well, Tony, thanks very much as ever, and I'll see you in the commentary booth tomorrow. Okay, turning now to rugby, and the weekend's action will be focused very much on the Manx sides taking part in the English leagues this weekend. It's as the domestic Ravenscroft Manx Shield competition takes a break this time around. Well, Douglas remain on the hunt for their first points of their Regional 2 North West campaign, whilst Vagabonds are on home soil in the county's 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire division. Meanwhile, a new season begins for Vagabonds ladies, and Ramsey will get some much-needed preparation for their upcoming Cheshire Bowl competition. As ever, I caught up with Dave Christian today to get his thoughts on the weekend's matches.
Both of the Isle of Man sides, Douglas and Vagabonds, at home this weekend. Douglas at Portishead. They will take on Vale of Lune, and that's a 3 o'clock kick-off down there. Trying to get a little bit of team consistency together with the squad selections, but the squad, when it was announced earlier this week, gave me a little bit of comfort about that. But I'm actually seeing the team news which came out earlier this morning, and they've had to make some changes. Front row stays the same. That's always good. Rob Todd and Owen Carvin as the prop forwards, with Sean Garland in at hooker. But outside of that, things start to change. We've got Ralph Clark comes into the second row. He's partnering up Sean Garland in there. I see we've got switches in the back row as well. John Dutnell gets a start, so good kudos for the youngster there. Liam Kirkpatrick, who was thought to be injured, he comes back in at 8. But we've got Ben Kelly coming in at scrum half. Guy Wood, who's been doing well, he's at 10. But the changes in the back line, Sam McCord's in the centres part, and youngster Jack Shimon, and that's a new centre partnership. And we've got new names on the bench as well. I see Stefan De Beers there. He was at Vagabonds a couple of seasons ago, so he's obviously made the transfer down the road to Douglas. So there are some changes there for Douglas. How they cope with them, I'm sure the coaches, Phil Kringle down there, who's the head coach, I'm sure Phil is giving them all a good pat on the back and has got confidence in them. But what we find in the English Clubs Championship is that what gives the team the most benefit is consistency of selection, and we're starting to see now the cracks appearing in Douglas's squad depth. We know we've got Simon Hoddenot out injured, Blake Snell's out injured as well, so there's some of these changes are forced upon them. But I think home advantage, Vale of Lune, I think, have played 3. They've managed 1 win out of their 3. They've historically gone okay at Portishead, but everything varies from one season to the next, so Douglas got an excellent chance to pick up some points. Up the road at Ballafletcher, Vagabonds take on New Brighton. Now, it's only their second game of the season. The league only started last Saturday, and Vagga's got a great chance here. New Brighton lost last week at Hoylake. Now, Vagga's also lost at Hoylake earlier on in a pre-season friendly, and the result will give them some comfort, because I know I've been talking to the Vagabond skipper, Matt Rockwell, and Matt tells me that whilst Hoylake were quality and deserved the result on the pre-season friendly on the day, he said he didn't think they were particularly special, and felt that when the season come properly, they had a fair chance of pulling off a result against them. Now, if New Brighton lost to them last week, Vagger's going to be happy this week. A couple of changes to the Vaggers team. As I mentioned before with Douglas, consistency of selection is very important. There's a change in the front row. Jack Kane either not available or not selected this week. The youngster Cal Murray, he gets a run, he gets a start. He was only on the bench last week. He's going to start on the wing. And Ollie Swindlehurst going to come into the second row. Ollie's a big lad. Whether or not he's got the endurance that will be required for a full 80 minutes, I don't know. But good pat on the back for him for getting a start this week. So those changes may just affect the overall composition, but most of the team is pretty much as it was last week. I know they lost last week in their opening game away at Bury, but Bury are fancied for the title. I think Vagger's got a great chance, and that's the game we're going to be covering for Saturday Live tomorrow. Kick-off at Balafledger is at 1 o'clock. Vagger's ladies also on the road this weekend. It's their opening match of the season. They're away at Lee. Couple of new names on the team sheet as well. Ella Goodwin-Jones comes in. She gets a start at hooker. Last season's hooker, Maisie Murray's going to drop into the second row. But also back in the team, Corinna Daly at number 8. She was injured at the tail end of last season, and everybody will be really pleased to see her back. Gives them incredible go forward from the back of the scrummage. Great ball carrier, and she hits hard in the tackles as well. Everything you want from a number 8. Corinna's back. I think things are going to go well for Vagabonds. Not sure they're going to pull off on a win away from home, but things will go well for them back here on the Isle of Man, and hopefully we'll be there for Saturday Live to cover their home game. But tomorrow it's away at Lee. It's a 2:15 kickoff for that one. And the final game on the card, just give it a brief mention, is Ramsey are away at Caldy. This is a friendly fixture ahead of the Cheshire Bowl starting next week. They're playing Caldy's third team. Caldy's first team play in the Championship, which is just below the Premiership in rugby terminology. So you certainly don't want to be messing with their first team. They're either fully professional or semi-professional players. So Ramsey away at Caldy thirds. That's ahead of the Cheshire Bowl. Ramsey got fixtures in that on the 1st and 8th of October. So this is ideal preparation for them. We'll have all those results for you tomorrow afternoon in Saturday Live.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight we turn to hockey, and week 3 awaits of the mixed hockey season on the Isle of Man. While some of the sides across the divisions have been making up good early ground to push ahead, there's still plenty of time left for those behind to claw back valuable points. Well, earlier today I spoke with Ben Cunningham, who's given his thoughts on this weekend's fixtures. So week 3 is getting underway in the Manx hockey mixed season. We have the usual batch of fixtures awaiting, and we'll start with the mixed Premier League, and the early pushback at 11:05 at QE2 is Valkyries B, and they host Vikings A.
Yeah, Vikings A undefeated so far this season. Valkyries B got their first points of the season last weekend. It'll be a close game. I'm sure Valkyries B will put a strong effort in, but Vikings A are going to look the stronger team, and I think it'll be a Vikings win.
And then we have 2 games at the NSC, one after the other. One is at 12:30, and that is Backers A against Ramsey A. This could be an interesting one.
This could be an interesting one. Backers A undefeated, but then Ramsey A have not had the start to the season they really wanted. Backers A will definitely want to keep their unbeaten run up, but Ramsey A will definitely be wanting to get a win. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
And then the next one, as I mentioned at the NSC, is at 2:05 pushback, and that is Backers B hosting Valkyries A.
Yeah, Backers B got the draw last week with Valkyries B, and it was, from the report I got from that game, it sounded a really end-to-end game, and it could have gone either way. Valkyries A had a storming win last week against Ramsey, and they're looking really strong this season, so I think I'll go for a Valkyries win on that one.
And then at the same time, down south, 2:05 pushback at Castle Rush, and it's Castletown Celts, and they'll welcome Vikings B.
Yeah, Vikings B will be hoping that they can match what Vikings A did last weekend and beat Castletown Celts. Castletown Celts narrowly just lost out last week to Vikings A. The match report I got from the Vikings captain was it was a really strong game of hockey, and it was very well contested. But I think Castletown Celts will definitely look the stronger outfit on the pitch on the day.
And in terms of the Premier League, before we move on, if you had to pick out one of the games as maybe one to keep an eye on, which one would you say it would be?
I think it's going to be Backers A against Ramsey A.
There we go, short and to the point. Okay, let's rattle through the other divisions then. We've got Mixed Division 1 and 3 games there this weekend.
Yep, so the first game in this league is Vikings C against Vikings D, a Vikings derby. This could go either way, both teams very much equally matched. Then we got at 12:35 at King William's College, we've got Castletown Southerners against Harlequins A. Harlequins A coming off a very good win last week. Castletown Southerners have started well as well this season. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. And then the final game in this league is at 2:05 at QE2, and that's Falkires C against Backers C.
Then we move on to Mixed Division 2, and there's 3 games there also.
Yep, so the early one in this one is at 12:35, and that's Falkires D against Vikings E at Peel. Falkires D have looked very strong as well, shown that they're not going to be easily pushed aside. Vikings E have had a very good start to this season, remain undefeated, so it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. The next one we've got is at 12:35 again, but this time at Castletown, and that's Castletown Cushacks against Ramsey Ravens. Ramsey Ravens undefeated. Cushacks came out on top in the Castletown Derby last week, so we'll be hoping to keep the winning form up, but Ramsey Ravens have looked very strong, and I did catch a glimpse of them last week. And then the final game in this league, which is at 2:05 at Ramsey, and that's Ramsey Rookies against Castletown Camags. Ramsey Rookies will be looking to definitely get their first points of the season in this one, but this one will probably be very close. So in this division, I think that'll be the game of the day.
And then 3 games also in Mixed Division 3.
Yep, so Harlequins B have a rest week this week. Harlequins C, though, play Castletown Carricks at 3:35 at the NSC. Backers D welcome Falkires Colts at 3:35 at Peel. And then Castletown Cosney welcome Backers Colts at 3:35 at Castletown.
And then last but certainly not least, 3 games in the Mixed Under-15s.
Yep, so we've got a Castletown Derby, which is Castletown Sabres against Castletown Sharks at 11:05. Then we have Harlequins against Backers at 11:05 at the NSC. And then the final game in this league is Ramsey Rogues and Rascals v Vikings.
Manx Radio Sport.
That's all we have time for on Friday Sport Preview this evening. Many thanks to my guests this week, Tony Mepham, Dave Christian and Ben Cunningham. And just one final reminder, FC Isle of Man will be looking for all the support they can get when they take part in the second qualifying round of the FA Vase tomorrow night against Lower Breck at the Bowl. And if you can't make it to the stadium, we at Manx Radio will have you covered. Manx Radio covering FC Isle of Man versus Lower Breck, kicking off at 6 p.m. on Manx Radio's AM 1368 and digital platforms with full live match commentary. We'd love to have you along. That's all we have time for, so have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend, whatever you're doing. Mike Reynolds is up next, but from me, until next time, it's bye for now.
The Nation Station.